problem. Today, this is the host, Natalie, and this is the co-host, Kevin, and this is our Goldilocks.
Little Goldilocks. What's up, guys? So today we're on to another gecko. And not just any gecko, but Goldilocks, the Golden Gecko. We're probably not going to have Goldilocks here out the entire time because when he gets pretty excited, doesn't he? Yeah, Daddy don't want poop on him again.
Yeah.
As always, guys, we are going to go over some cool facts of the Golden Gecko, their enclosure, and diet. How's that sound?
Good.
Ready to get into it? Let's do it. Why don't we start off with you telling everybody why they are called Golden Geckos?
So males are actually a golden color.
That's exactly right.
And we, like I said, we aren't gonna have them for the whole video. We are just gonna get a different gecko because you're crazy.
But you're exactly right. And even their eyes, look at her eyes. Even their eyes are like a golden color.
Yeah.
That is really pretty, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as Natalie said, it's the males that actually take on that golden color. Females, which Goldilocks here is, take on these like darker, greenish, like olive colors.
Yeah.
And what's another really cool thing that you wanted to tell everybody about Goldilocks?
They're sticky geckos.
Sticky geckos.
Yeah, and their paws can stick to anything.
That's right. Natalie is absolutely right. They can stick to walls, they can stick to glass, they can stick to pretty much anything you put them on, right?
Yeah.
And that's a pretty cool superpower.
Yeah.
I like that as a superpower.
Yeah.
And I could climb on top of the house without a ladder. It'd be sweet. Unlike getting bitten by a mutated spider and growing those superpowers, golden geckos have a much more natural reason for this. Both would still be pretty cool though, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to get bitten by a mutated spider and become Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be.
Yeah.
So golden geckos have, and I know it doesn't look like it, you would think that it's like some kind of Velcro or something, but their toes actually have thousands of tiny little hairs on them called seta. But it's thousands of tiny little hairs. Bet you wouldn't have thought of that first, but it's thousands of little hairs. Can you imagine that's what is on his toes?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. And then from those thousands of tiny hairs, there's even more and even tinier hairs that branch off from those called spatulae. Pretty sure it's pronounced spatulae.
Is it on their back and stuff?
Nope, just their toes, their toe pads. All these tiny little hairs on their toe pads create a electromagnetic field on them, which kind of like magnets, when you stick magnets to a fridge. Not in the same way, but it's kind of like how they are able to stick to stuff.
So can they stick on?
What did you think it was? Did you think it was like slime on their toes that kind of stuck them to the wall?
Yeah.
That'd be my first guess. This is explained by the appropriately named van der Waal interactions. And it's probably not pronounced wall, but it's pretty confusing. This has to do with like oxygen, nitrogen, electronegativity, and atoms, which I do not know enough about to explain that. You'll learn about all that stuff in school, trust me.
Dad.
You'll probably know it way better than Dad ever did.
Dad.
What?
So all the reptiles you know in school.
So although they can be considered large when speaking about geckos, they're a pretty small lizard that'll only get about 5 to 8 inches, and they have a lifespan of about 8 to 12 years, which is still a long time for a lizard. Definitely not the Nile monitor, right?
Yeah.
He ain't gonna get anywhere near that big.
Yeah.
She is actually full grown.
Wait a minute, Daddy. Do you remember on Snake Discovery, they were doing Easter, and then I actually saw in the back they missed one egg.
They missed an egg?
Yeah.
Those were pretty cool. The Easter egg hunt at the Snake Discovery Zoo.
Yeah, and I saw in the back when they were all done, they missed one blue one.
They missed one? I would love to go there for something like that.
Yeah.
We will one day. These little guys are native to Vietnam and Southeast Asia. They are also in the same family that includes like the Madagascar day gecko, the tokay gecko, and the common house gecko. All of which are geckos that I want one day.
Yeah.
Because they're all cool.
Yeah.
But they are a nocturnal gecko. So remember what nocturnal it means? It means they're active during the night. So they're going to be out like hunting for crickets, looking around for food, but there's a lot of things you have to consider when dealing with a nocturnal pet. And we'll get more into that in the enclosure and diet. But it's like the total opposite from your bearded dragon, who is active during the day. This guy is active when me and you are asleep. That's probably why you never hear him running around.
Is he active climbing on the wall?
Yeah, he climbs around a lot more at night. Then he's like on the prowl.
So he's like on the top of the thing, running around all over the place.
Yep, checking everything out. Now, let's talk about handleability and interacting with your pet gecko. You know as well as I do, Goldilocks is a bit challenging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys will read a lot of articles out there that will tell you that golden geckos are like, they're pretty apprehensive about being handled. There are also a lot of articles out there that describe golden geckos as more of a display animal. There's a number of reasons of why this is. Now, what's your biggest fear about handling her?
Because I'm scared if they lose their tail.
Yes, and they can, but that's right. It will grow back. However, if you guys seen our leopard gecko video, you know that how losing their tail can be detrimental. It's not life-threatening, but something that you'll definitely have to keep an eye on.
Who loses their tail? Which one loses their tail and grows back?
Pretty much all of your geckos. Him, your leopard gecko.
She grows back her tail?
Yeah, they will grow it back. And your one that we can't name.
What?
Can't tell them that though.
Yeah.
They also have very delicate skin, which if they are able to wiggle out of your hands and fly out of your hand and like hit the floor or run into a corner or something, they can injure themselves pretty easily. Not only that, but like the stuff that's on your hands can soak into their skin. So Natalie and I would definitely make it a point that if you do plan on handling your golden gecko, to wash your hands prior.
Yeah.
But you always wash your hands after playing with reptiles, right?
Yeah.
But this is one we would definitely recommend washing your hands prior to holding them.
Yeah, like if you hold them like until you're done doing this video, you definitely have to wash your hands.
Yes. Now, just like almost any other lizard, they can be tamed down and socialized. It's a little more difficult with them and it's a longer of a process, but I mean, if they get out of your hands, they are gone. I've never seen a reptile as quick as her, have you?
No.
No. Do you know what instant transmission is? It's pretty much where they just, boom, disappear. I mean, she is super quick.
So if the door like slightly cracked, she could get out?
Yeah, she could get out, make a run for it, and hurt her delicate skin on something. Definitely don't want that.
Yeah, and what if she accidentally falls on something?
She could hurt herself that way too.
Yeah.
Don't want that.
Yeah.
So between that, the fact that their skin is very delicate, the way they try to run and flee by just wiggling their whole body, being able to drop their tail, unfortunately, this is one that Natalie and I would not recommend as a kid-friendly reptile, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
But we definitely still love her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is awesome.
And even if she runs away, they're still love her.
Absolutely. But, do they make a good pet in general? What do you think?
Yeah.
I think so. But you should understand some of the negatives first. I think that's plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are cheap. We got Goldilocks here for, I think it was like 20 bucks. They're very cheap. But in our opinion, cheap doesn't necessarily mean good. And we also wouldn't put making a decision whether you should or shouldn't get an animal based on being cheap, right?
Yeah.
In most cases, the cheaper the animal usually means the worse of a pet it actually is.
The what?
Yeah. Take for example like Nile monitors, where they're sold for like 20 or 50 bucks. And people are totally blown away by how much care, how big, how much they need. I mean, that's very cheap for a 6-foot lizard.
Yeah.
Also, with that delicate skin, it is even more important to keep their enclosure clean and pristine consistently and constantly, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want her getting any like skin infections or anything like that. So just as you do, we clean out her cage on a daily basis to keep it clean for her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But their care is relatively simple. Minus the cleaning, the care portion is relatively simple.
Yeah, and they actually go and like I said, at the night, they're very wild.
And active. Yep.
And active.
You're exactly right. So our last negative, and another reason why they are so cheap, is that unlike most leopard geckos and crested geckos on the market today, that they're captive bred, most golden geckos are going to be wild caught. Most of them are going to be. And that kind of makes them so cheap too. So Goldilocks was getting a little rambunctious, so we got our frilled dragon.
Yeah.
And Natalie's got some peanuts, because she's hungry. Besides all of that though, if you are willing to work with them on taming and socializing, of keeping the enclosure pristine, the Golden Gecko is a pretty awesome pet. Very, very awesome. I think so. Now let's get into Enclosure. Let's start with the enclosure itself. A 20-gallon tank is going to be the minimum. You know how active he can be, especially at night. He uses that whole enclosure, right?
Yeah.
So as always, the bigger the better, but 20 gallons is going to be the minimum. And also don't forget, they are an arboreal lizard. So you're going to need something at least, we would say 24 inches tall, about 2 feet tall, to give them climbing room.
Yeah.
But unlike some arboreal lizards, golden geckos actually spend a good bit of time on the ground. Where do we always see that guy? He's like hanging out on the ground under his little bush thing, right?
Yeah.
So they spend a good bit of time on the ground. But this means you will need both vertical and ground decor. Stuff for them to climb, stuff on the bottom. You will also need arboreal and ground hides. And with as skittish as they are, the hides are very important. But you want to make them feel safe, right?
Yeah.
Whether he's on the ground or up in his tree. Which then leads us into substrate, the stuff that goes on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So coming from Vietnam, they are going to need high humidity, between 60 and 80%. So you're going to want substrate that is good for holding in moisture to get the humidity levels up, right?
Yeah, and you need bugs.
Bugs? Yeah, if you do a bioactive tank.
Yeah.
We haven't done that yet, but I'd like to set some of these guys up in bioactive tanks.
Yeah.
Those are cool. And kind of like the leopard gecko, although they will be mainly drinking like water droplets that collect from the humidity and when you spray them down, you should also include a water bowl for them, but it should be wide and shallow because that will help out with the humidity as well. And then that'll collect water throughout the enclosure and they can drink those.
Yeah, and they're very good at doing that.
Yeah. We've caught that guy drinking a couple times off the branches, haven't we?
Yeah.
When dealing with high humidity and frequent spray downs, it should be at least twice a day.
Look on his head.
Yeah. You got some peanut on him?
Yeah.
But with that frequent spraying and high humidity, that is going to make it that much more important to keep their enclosure clean. Because it's not the humidity that will give them a respiratory infection, it's dirty substrate that will give them a respiratory infection.
Yeah.
Don't want that.
Yeah.
Now, on heating and lighting. UVB, like the leopard gecko, is not required for them to live a happy, healthy life. However, just like the leopard gecko, if you do include it, it can only help. Do you remember what UVB is?
Yeah.
What is it?
Lighting?
It's lighting. It's kind of like bringing the sun into their enclosure.
Lighting?
Because the sun provides you and me with vitamins. Same thing with lizards. It provides them with those nutrients. Pretty cool. You learned that in school too.
How am I learning so many things about reptiles in school?
And then heating. Although we did mention that golden geckos spend a good bit of time on the ground, they are still a primarily arboreal lizard. So we would definitely recommend overhead heat lamps versus like a heat pad, because they won't be getting that heat when they're up in the air from a heat pad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it's heating down here and he's all the way up here, he's not going to be getting any heat, right?
Yeah.
So we would much suggest a heat lamp that goes over top of the enclosure.
Yeah.
And a quick side note to that is you should get a lamp or a stand that holds the heat lamp above the actual enclosure. So like you said, what if it burns him? If you guys place that heat lamp directly on top of like a mesh screen, they will climb to the top of that enclosure and they will climb right under that heat lamp, and that'll burn them. That'll burn them very bad. So you want to get a stand that like holds the heat lamp a good distance from the top and the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a good point of me.
That was a very good point you made. Very good. Now, as far as the temperatures themselves, they should have a hot side of anywhere between 85 to 90 degrees, a cool side of 75 to 80, and nighttime temperature shouldn't go anywhere below 71 degrees. It should be between like 71 and 76 degrees at night.
Yeah.
Say hi to everybody.
Hello.
He is so majestic.
Yeah.
A literal dragon. And finally, on to diet. Golden geckos are omnivores, which means they will eat
Fruit and vegetables.
and
insects.
And insects, exactly right. Fruit should be in small portions. Insects should be the staple diet. They should be eating majority insects. And Natalie and I would also highly recommend you look into some reptile-safe fruits and vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Some fruits can be totally toxic to your reptile. One of the only ones that I know of that I would feed to them is like mangoes. But that's absolutely ensuring that they are pesticide free, right?
Yeah.
Like we're gonna go pulling them out of a garden and feeding them to them.
Yeah.
Definitely not. You're also going to need to dust their insects with calcium powder. Remember how we dust all the geckos? Our new way of doing it was shaking them up in the bag.
Yeah.
But you gotta do that with the golden gecko's insects, and you also need to include like a weekly multivitamin for them. And finally, babies and juveniles will eat every single day, while adults can go more to like 2 or 3 times a week, every other day.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy? All right, Missy, that does it for Goldilocks the golden gecko. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you found it enjoyable or informative, make sure to leave us a like and consider subscribing for more of our care videos, coolest prehistoric reptiles, coolest reptiles from around the world videos. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.